Continuing the conversation, week number 7 breakdowns in regards to the SEC. We'll turn our attention to the battle in Knoxville. Tennessee coming off the 19-14 road loss to Arkansas, now booked as 15.5 point favorites over Billy Napier and the Florida Gators. When you look at this matchup and series overall, Florida has won 6 of the last 7 meetings, including last year where they won in the Swamp, 29-16. Last time in Knoxville, the Volunteers did strike the 38-33 win. But these are teams, Coach, right now heading into week number 7, headed in opposite directions. Florida gets off the mat against an in-state opponent, UCF. As a home dog, they get the victory 26-13. Can Tennessee dominate this game to cover the 15.5 point number?
You know, after watching them play last week or the last time, I just don't know. They have lost their identity. I said this before. They've lost their identity by being the explosive downfield passing team that they used to be. And you got to go back 2 years to where they really started feeling good about this offensive system. They're right now, they're trying to control the clock and run the ball and even slowing it down. I don't think that's their game. I don't think that's Josh Heupel's game. So if they're going to get the points that they usually get, they've got to go back to throwing it vertically downfield and horizontally to the sideline, and that's what's opened up their running game. Because you got to remember, their running game is basically an inside zone play. It's made to go between the tackles, and you got to spread the defense out vertically and horizontally to get that running game going. Florida, Florida's had a pretty good year. They've lost one conference game. They put some wins together. And this is a huge game for both teams. When it talks about their future play, maybe the head coaching future of Napier, and then the season for Tennessee in regard to the SEC championship, it's a big, big game.
Yeah, I agree 100%, and that's where I wanted to go in regards to Billy Napier. You know, he was on the hot seat, and rightfully so, after the blowout home loss to Cam Ward in Miami. They then righted the ship. They got an FCS win, and then they did win against Mississippi State, a conference win on the road in Starkville, and they followed it up against a win 24-13 last week over Gus Malzahn and KJ Jefferson. And when you look at the quarterbacks, Coach, in this matchup, right? Lagway, that's come on in relief of Graham Mertz at times, but Graham Mertz is a battle-tested quarterback, and in regards to this rivalry game, might be the most experienced going up against Tennessee and Nico, even though he's at home.
You know, when you see a team that's struggling record-wise, or the fans are upset and the coach is nervous, you see them putting in a backup quarterback, whether it be Florida State or Auburn or Florida, and that doesn't mean that's a better quarterback. Doesn't mean that's the best guy who should be playing. At that immediate time, you got to do something. You got to do something to please the crowd and to excite your team. Right now, against a team like Tennessee, Mertz gives you the best chance. He makes less mistakes. It's kind of like I don't know if you can compare the Ewers Manning situation, where one's more experienced, but you win a game like this, you want a more experienced quarterback, and you don't want him turning the ball over. And you want to take advantage of what you got. So the key to them, I think, is not turning the ball over, making mistakes, and hope that Tennessee doesn't figure out how to hit the explosive play downfield like they had been doing in the years past.
Yeah, I like Tennessee plus the 15.5. Florida, plus the 15.5. I think Tennessee might win, but I do feel the Gators can be live in this matchup, knowing about how they've played throughout this series. Like I mentioned, they've won 6 of the last 7. Got the victory last year. I think 2 touchdowns is way too much, even though they're on the road in Knoxville.
How about as we get deeper into conference play? Give me those traditional rivalries. But now in this new era of the sport, we've got some conference games that stand the test of time, even in their first year in these leagues. And Joe, as you get ready for a new season, you circle the big weekends that you expect to be there, even as teams move up and down in the rankings. And that is still Saturday, October 12th. That is still tomorrow, and that is still week 7 of this 2024 college football campaign. It does not get better, perhaps, than what we have tomorrow night in prime time under the lights inside Autzen Stadium. It is number 2 versus number 3. The second-ranked Ohio State Buckeyes on the road in Eugene against the third-ranked Oregon Ducks. A 3.5-point spread now in favor of the Bucks. The Ducks have not been a home underdog since the 2018 season. So, Joe, I ask you, We call this game of the year, too. The first game of the year designation we gave was for a top 5 tilt 2 Saturdays ago in Tuscaloosa between Georgia and Alabama, and it lived up to the hype. Will tomorrow night inside Autzen Stadium as well.
Yeah, it's so funny, Ben, because the market perception of these two teams could not be any different. You have Ohio State, who guys, let's be honest here. Akron, Western Michigan, Marshall, Michigan State, and Iowa. Not exactly the who's who of offensive juggernauts in college football here. Ohio State has not been put to the test in any way, shape, or form by anybody yet. In the meantime, Oregon, it seems like everything is life or death. Every game that they play comes down to the wire. But you know what? They're at home, and they're getting points. They are undefeated, just like Ohio State is. So I don't get it. Don't forget, Dylan Gabriel a year ago was with Oklahoma, and guess what he did? Game-winning drive to end up beating Texas in a big spot, a big moment. And yet, here we are, Ohio State, not being tested by any real offense. This is the biggest offense, the biggest test Ohio State is going to have. I think that's a huge ask to them being a favorite to go to Oregon and win that game and cover because the hook is available. I'm not buying it. I think Oregon holds serve and wins this game.
This year, Ohio State is 3-2 against the spread, of course, favored in all 5 games. They have been favored by at least 17.5 points, and they have covered in both of their 2 games so far in Big Ten action. Can't say the same for Oregon. They are 1-4 against the number. They have not covered in a Big Ten battle so far this season. And, Joe, you mentioned Oregon, and I would say they have been better up front the last 2 games. They have held both Michigan State and UCLA to 60 yards on the ground or less. But who is an offense, at least rushing attack, you could compare to Ohio State? To me, it's Boise State and it's Ashton Genty, who put up 192 yards in week 2 and 3 touchdowns. Ohio State's got a pair of backs in Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson alongside Will Howard, who has scored in both Big Ten games as well, 4 consecutive games on the ground, and albeit some great playmakers on the outside in Emeka Egbuka and Jeremiah Smith. Ohio State is the best scoring defense in the country. They're one of 3 programs that ranks top 10, scoring total, offense and defense. That's points per game scored and allowed, and yards per game accrued and allowed as well. But, Joe, it's a really interesting spot as well as we compare these 2 teams. Ohio State is the favorite to win the Big Ten at -115. Oregon has the second best price. It's really where these 2 teams entered the year. It's where they stand. They are 2 of 4 teams at a -800 price or better to reach the college football playoff. Will both programs be there at the end of this season?
I think that's what makes this year a little interesting is because whoever loses this game, it isn't the end of the year and a chance for a national championship because ultimately I do think both these teams will be in the college football playoff with a chance to win it all. It's a great litmus test, I think, for Ohio State more than Oregon. It's a huge ask in a place, Ben, that has been known for big home field advantage for this Oregon team. Proven quarterback. This is a tough. If Ohio State wins this game, wins it convincingly, they are a serious contender for a national championship.
Listen, this is a big moment for Ryan Day. It's his 6th full year at the helm in Columbus. They are 61-8 under Day. But all 8 losses against ranked opponents. They're still 18-8 straight up against top 25 teams, but just 9-7 against the top 10. So 7 of those 8 losses under Day against a top 10 foe. 3rd-ranked Oregon inside Autzen certainly lives up to that billing. Speaking of home environments in primetime, not many more difficult places to play than Death Valley and Tiger Stadium at night. LSU with Brian Kelly, 11-0 straight up in night games in Baton Rouge, and yet they're getting points as well in a top 15 tilt against Ole Miss tomorrow. Is the right side favored?
I don't. Yes, the right side is favored. Ole Miss is the better team. And listen, LSU has a very good offense. But you know what? Ole Miss's offense is better than LSU's. And you know what Ole Miss has? A really good defense. You know what LSU doesn't have? A defense at all. They are atrocious, and they're going to give up 1 trillion points in this game. If it wasn't for Kelly and LSU coming off a bye and his previous record coming out of byes, this number should be closer to a touchdown here. No way am I backing LSU. I don't care how many points they're getting. Ole Miss is the better team on both sides of the ball. They'll show it again against a extremely weak LSU defense.
Ole Miss has been the favorite in all 6 games. They had the hiccup in a large way against Kentucky 2 weeks ago, but they have covered in all 5 of their wins. Much better defensively than LSU is this year. 6 of the last 7 games have combined for at least 61 points. Kansas State and Colorado. Listen, CU was one of the most bet-on teams to win any conference crown, and it's to win the Big 12. They're off to a 2-0 start. They're a home underdog tomorrow, now only getting 3.5 in Boulder against K-State. Quickly, Joe, can CU pull off the slight upset tomorrow against the Cats?
Who cares? Give me the over. Cash the ticket and go away. That's it. Just give me the over. No defense.
I think it's a very,
over.
very, very smart point.